Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Saving Storybook, where we rebuild digitally a local kids amusement park and just give it a bit of a higher budget and a little bit of perhaps care that it maybe doesn't quite get. I went to StoryBook Gardens a couple of days ago, and it sort of reinvigorated me to come back to this project, and also just the fantastic updates that Planet Coaster 2 has been receiving recently has got me very much in the zone with the game. That this video will mark a Planquatica, a Meanderville, and the Saving Storybook series all within the month of June. So I'm kind of proud of that. Whether I'm hoping that I can keep it up. And Saving Storybook is going to be the one that's sort of the daily driver. This is hopefully the one that comes out most regularly with slightly smaller updates, but more often updates, and mostly just me talking over time-lapse. Because from a production point of view, that's just kind of how the videos get made a little bit quicker. What you're seeing here, you might wonder what that wooden structure is there. This is like the third attempt I had at the structure. Two of them I showed off, and then one of them I didn't. So basically this area, the entrance area, as you walk through the castle, and it's sort of the opposite of a lot of theme parks, in that usually when you open into the area, you go through the big gates and you can usually see a bit of a strip, a bit of a main street, or an open area at least, maybe a few rides you can see. You can make, there's, some of the bigger parks have things like weenies, big castles or what have you, or the big tree at Animal Kingdom, This is very much the opposite. You walk out into a pretty small little courtyard area that we're building here. And honestly, the scale is already starting to get away from me a little bit. This place is really small, and there's only so much I can do with both the limitations of the game and also my own limitations. I find it really difficult to bring everything right down to that really small scale. So the reason I rebuilt that wooden structure 3 or 4 times is because the first couple of times it's just huge, and it's arguably still a little big. But it looks okay. Here's me building it again on a much smaller scale, and we get there in the end, and I think it actually ends up looking pretty good. But maybe actually this is the third one. Oh, I can't remember. There's a lot of iterations of this thing, but we get there in the end. But yeah, you open out into this small courtyard, and there's a wishing well, I suppose, down the middle here, and there's always a little bit of steam coming out of it, or water vapor, and then there is a Cheshire Cat sitting on there that we're going to attempt to make out of art shapes. I'll warn you now, it is nightmare fuel, but a little bit more on that later on. Here, what I realized after building this wooden structure 3 or 4 times and thinking, this thing just seems huge, I realized what the problem was. It's that the buildings are too far away, and the structure sort of wraps from one side of the building to the other. So what I need to do actually is bring these buildings in. Now, I didn't want to completely rebuild that front fascia and squish it all down. So what I'm actually going to do is just widen these 2 buildings here, and that kind of solves the issue I was having. And also solves another issue that hasn't quite happened yet, in that this roof I'm building here is the roof of a gift shop, the Treasure Chest gift shop, that we very soon will be able to put an actual gift shop in. With update 6 at time of recording coming in a few days, we're going to be able to go back into here and actually insert a real life gift shop, and that's very much something I want to do. It's a great feature. They showed it off at the Frontier Unlocked the other day in great detail, and it really looks like a really well put together feature. So I am going to be doing a video just retrofitting gift shops into every park I've done in Planet Coaster 2. And that will hopefully be out as soon as possible once the update drops. We're going to go into Planquatica and turn flotations into a real gift shop. We're going to go into Meanderville and turn phases into a real gift shop. And we're going to come here into Saving Storybook and turn Treasure Chest into a real gift shop. And we're going to have a look at seeing how we can make them all look different, because obviously the module shelving units you get all look the same, but we're going to be able to theme them up and decorate them all. So that's going to be my sort of ode to update 6. There's obviously the pirate scenery and the fairy tale scenery that's going to be coming in very handy, but for that, my plan is for the video to be, let's actually look at these gift shops and see what we can do with them and how they look varied and interesting. So we have that courtyard area that will need to be heavily foliaged, that we'll do at a later date, and then you can walk to the left or to the right. To the left takes you down to what is currently a pedal go-kart track and a beaver tails, which is like a flat donut with toppings that you can get here in Canada. So we'll be looking at doing those later date. We're actually going to the right this time. So turning to the right opens up into, again, another little courtyard with a beautiful big oak in the middle. And this is all very heavily foliaged that we're going to have to go back and do. But then also there is this very artificial looking river that runs through the majority of the park, the first 2/3 of the park, I guess. And I really wanted to keep it as is. I really like it as a feature, and I think it's a little bit different to a lot of stuff we've done in the past, so I didn't really want to change this so much. This whole build is not going to be a one-for-one recreation. It's going to be recreating it when I think it's good, and then making something new when I think it isn't good. But I actually quite like this, so we're going to keep it. One thing there is here in real life is like a big structure of a whale that kids can walk into. It's just kind of like a little photo op. I did play around with art shapes trying to make this thing and gave up in the end. It just looked horrific however way I did it. If there is anybody watching who is savvy with art shapes and has some free time, I won't promise that I'll use it because it's got to look good. If it doesn't look good, I just use my own one. But if you want to go and Google StoryBook Gardens whale, or pause the video when I showed that picture just before, if you reckon you can do that with art shapes, then go ahead, we'll add it in. But I just could not get it to look like anything other than a big blob. So yeah, we're going to not put that in. But we are going to try and do the rest of it. So here we've got the water opens out, it's like kidney shape, and then carries on down. And then throughout the park, the little stream widens out, and then there will be a little set piece. I don't want to say animatronic because they don't move. They may have done in the past. They certainly don't move anymore. Just these little vignettes of various different sort of storybook pieces. One of them is like the three men in a tub, you know, that kind of thing. There's a tub with 3 men, and there's a few others, a Humpty Dumpty and what have you. And they're all sort of around the place. We're definitely going to be trying to do those as best as I can with art shapes because they are a real key part of Storybook, and you'll see one of them form a nightmarish vision in front of you here while I carry on talking. They are a big part of Storybook, and one thing, honestly, I would like to get back in my version of Storybook is a little bit of that sort of Storybook feel. It used to lean a lot more into it. A lot of the theming was more focused on the storybooks and the fairy tales and what have you. The areas were all a little bit more sort of focused towards fairy tales, and that sort of got a little lost as the park has developed over the years. So that is one thing I want like to try and bring back, because arguably it's one of its sort of big selling points. One of its key things is that it is about the sort of the magic of stories and the magic of childhood and the stories that we learn as children. So I definitely want to sort of bring that back a little bit. And lean into the areas that lean into that in real life. So having a go here at building a Cheshire Cat, and I don't know, it's not bad. The mouth is a little off. It's a bit Wallace and Gromit. Here's what it's meant to look like. I'll leave that down in the corner maybe as we build this, so you can see my reference and see how far I got. He looks a little stoned. It's not the worst thing I've ever done. It's not really. I feel like I'm okay with art shapes, but you know, I'm no SP Ridley. I'm not. I wouldn't even say I'm a mass bandit. He does really great stuff with art shapes as well. It's not my area, but I muddle through it, and I don't hate what I come up with. It's okay. Anyway. What I try not to do as well is use like 10,000 pieces on these things. You could shrink all of this way down and really get the curves in with them, and I prefer like a middle ground of it looking what it's meant to look like without, you know, just basically turning the game into Blender. But you know, it's fine. When I'm making videos in this format, when I'm doing time lapses, I have a triple monitor setup actually. So one of them has the recording-y stuff going on, one of them has the game, and then the other one is free to do whatever I want with, and I will almost constantly watch Planet Coaster content while I'm playing Planet Coaster. I feel that really helps, and it's a good time for me to watch it. So I love watching Mineral, Mass Bandit, S-Down Wolf, Beyond Drew TV. I should have wrote this list down because I'm going to forget people. But so many. Wix, Poison Blade, Yan. Anyone who's making Planet Coaster content. I still watch a lot of Planet Zoo content as well. Leaf doing awesome stuff. Savannah, Simply Savannah doing awesome stuff. There's loads I haven't mentioned. But honestly, I sit on my computer a lot. And oftentimes I run out of things to watch in the games. I'd love to see more, by the way. I'm hoping these updates have really sort of put a fire in people's bellies. I noticed the Bro Nation sharing Discord is much more active recently, so that's exciting. Overall, I do see more coming, but I often watch other stuff as well. And I actually watched, the reason I'm telling you about this is just because to talk to you about while this is happening. We're building a picture here. Luckily, when you're building a real life thing, there's great maps. So this is a real life map that we've just added in. I think it works out quite well, and it'll look close enough to what we end up doing. I'm not planning to do a complete change in the architecture of the place. So I was watching a video of one of the corridor crew guys. They were being interviewed by some other dudes, and they were talking a lot about content. And one thing he said was you should never equate effort put into a video with how successful the video will be. And it's something I've always believed in, and other content creators within the Planet space that I've talked to will back me up on this. It never works. And it was funny because as I was watching that, I was seeing Meanderville episode 2 just about past 8,000 views, which is great. At the moment, I think anything in Planet Coaster gets more than 10. Like, it's incredible. There's pretty much just Benji out there with doing the big numbers, and other than that, Planet Coaster 2 videos pretty much get 10k as a cap right now. That seems to be where the audience is. So Meanderville 2, episode 2 was like 8k, and I was like, that's great, that's done really well. That video took me about a month to put together. The same day, I also put out a video that took me 45 minutes saying, oh, look at the on-ride photos and look at the gift shops from the Frontier Unlocked. And that's already got more views than Meanderville episode 2. I don't know. That's just something funny, a little bit of a day in the life of content creation. Just, if you ever sat there wondering why your favorite creators are producing perhaps slightly less detailed or curated products these days, it's because if all they care about is views, they're going to do the stuff that gets the views, and usually that just means quickly covering news rather than these beautiful labours of love. Luckily, I am, at the moment at least, in the comfortable position where I don't rely on YouTube revenue. It's very nice, and it certainly helps. Like, I would struggle without it, but it isn't my sole source of income. So at the moment, as long as I occasionally do the news videos to get some quick views in, I can still spend a bit more time on this kind of stuff that is definitely more of a labour of love, especially in Planet Coaster 2, where the audience just isn't necessarily there because of the rocky start it had. Saying that, man, I'm so excited for Update 6, probably more so than any of the other updates. I think the new features coming look fantastic, and the new scenery, or the returning scenery, I should say, is probably the most requested. Pirate and Fantasy, let's be honest, they are two absolute staples of the theme park genre, so and very useful staples at that. The build that we're going to do in a moment, I'm messing around with the rotation thing for the first time here. Once I got my head around it, actually worked quite well. The build we're going to work on in a moment is basically a fantasy build, so it's slightly amusing that I've perhaps done it before the fantasy scenery came back to the game. But yeah, I might go back in and tweak it a little bit. This, by the way, the footage you're watching now may well be called the angst of large-footed flat rides, or why Jonty doesn't use terrain much, because the fact that these flat rides are so huge, and the fact that they're on this slight slope, geez, it made it so difficult to work with. In real life, the rides here are a small little elephant thing, little Dumbo thing that just turns around, and a little chair swing, like a little chair swing. They're fairground rides, basically, but they're always there. And I knew that I was going to struggle to replicate those, and as part of the saving storybook, did want to put some slightly more impressive rides in. But man, the game just desperately needs, I say desperately, it doesn't desperately need them, but God, I would love some smaller flat rides. And what I would really love, honestly, is flat rides that only kids can go on. Have the kids ride them and have the grown-ups stand by and stand around it and take photographs. I don't feel like that's within, like, outside of the scope of the development of this game, and I think it would be huge. That's what I really love to see. A dozen or so, they can all be just little spinny things. Like, they really don't have to be much. But the basically all we have in the game right now that I feel really works like that is the wimpy tentafool. I can't even remember what it's called now. The tiny eye, I think. The tiny little, the tiny little Ferris wheel that sort of has like 6 little carts in it. That's the closest thing we have to really like a true kiddie ride. I would love to see some more, and if whatever, if the grown-ups ride them, that it is what it is. But that's what I would love to see. That's what I think would be perfect. Is a little kiddie ride where the kids go on it and the grown-ups. They all line up still, but as they go on, the kids head to seats and the grown-ups come out the exit and just sort of mill around. Like, I feel like all the tech is there for it. I would love to see that. Have the grown-ups take photos and wave at the kids as they go around. I just think that would be absolutely fantastic, and it would work in any park. It's not just because I'm building a kids theme park that I think that would be good. Every park has a kids area, almost exclusively. Every park I can think of has a kids area with that kind of stuff in. Would love to see it. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the building we're building here. In the actual StoryBook Gardens, this building is in place. It is there, and it sells, drinks, ice creams, but like just like packet ice cream, like ice lollies and chocolate ones on sticks, that kind of thing. Just like cornetto, just stuff in a fridge, basically. So this is a student sits in here and sells cornettos and bottles of water. And in real life, it's basically a shed. Like, it's just this wooden structure with a hatch in it. But there are a couple of other buildings around this area that have this sort of light fantasy, medieval style to it. And I wanted to kind of keep that theme for this area and kind of call it like, I don't know, fairy tale grove or something like that. I can't remember what it's called in real life. I have to have a look. But the theming here is clearly meant to be a little sort of fairy tale village area. So I'm going to lean into that a little bit and lean into a bit of sort of like Alice's tea party kind of vibe with it. I wanted to put down the teacups, but they're absolutely ginormous. We might still find a way to work them. The rides I have picked, the little spinny thing, I don't remember which one it is now, and the Helter Skelter. I basically use them because they're two of the smaller and simpler looking rides. I didn't quite realize when I started this project how difficult it was to be finding rides, but honestly, the whole park only actually has like those 3 flat rides in real life, so we only have to really work them there. In other places, we'll be able to do some other stuff with them and make them a little bit more interesting. So here, again, I'm trying to keep the theming really quite light, because even though I want to show this as StoryBook Gardens with a bit of money pumped into it, it still isn't going to be insane money. Like, this is sort of like moving the budget up to like the council gave StoryBook Gardens 600 grand this year, I think, to keep open. So let's just imagine they gave them 10 million. That's kind of where I am with this. I want to just see if I punched a bit of cash into the place. So originally I had like that short sword and shield there, but that would have been expensive. That's like a full fiberglass model. So instead, we're going to be using a lot of these flat pieces that it's just like vinyl on plasterboard type thing. I don't use those much because they look cheap, and so I'm not really building cheap parks right now, but this is my cheap park, so this is where I need to start using this stuff. So instead of the sword and shield, we went with some drinks in the clouds, and it kind of fits a little bit as well. And then we're going to be using these decals a lot because, again, I kind of want to show that this place, it's doing its best, but it is just a little local family theme park. It's going to be a little rough around the edges, and the way we can do that is using these decals. And it's difficult to really sell the fact that these decals are because the place is looking a little grungy, over the fact that it's actually really nicely themed fantasy pieces. So I guess the trick is to use these decals on all of the buildings, even if they're not like medieval, lime plaster on brick kind of thing. I don't know whether it reads well as this is a brick building with a thin layer of plaster on it. you let me know. Let me know in the comments. And I did set them on the back here, using these to make all the AC look a little grungy and all that sort of stuff. I'm happy with how these little buildings come out. I think it's a good middle ground of, like, it's a bit of theming, but there's still white guttering all around it. Like, there's still just a sign that says Fantasy Snacks that's just like a plastic printed sign, Oh my god, the terrain. I'm so sorry that my parks are so flat, but this is why. I just have the worst time trying to do anything that isn't just flat. We get there in the end. But my goodness, it's a slog. But we get there in the end, and this is just a little quick service. There in the real park, there isn't any seating around here. But again, I'm just trying to dial it up a little bit. So we're going to use some of the invisible pathing that we got in the last update and turn this into a little bit of a picnic area. There are a lot of picnic areas through the park, and that will be something that we'll be doing in this build as well. Lots of nature areas where you can just sort of sit and enjoy the space. And there's a lot of areas like this as well where in sort of higher budget places, in higher theme parks, they would, all of this has to be very flat and smooth to walk on. But here, in actual Storybook, you are kind of sometimes stepping over rocks and plants to get to the grassy areas. It has got that slight sort of national park vibe to it, and that's something I want to try and carry over here. And also it helps cleaning up the areas where the terrain is a little funky as well. So start with a little bit of light planting around here. There isn't much, although I am going to have to sort of mess around with this so it isn't just sort of big swathes of green, because I don't think that looks great in Planet Coaster. It doesn't do a very good job of just allowing you to do a big green space. I think it always looks unfinished. And with a budget park like this, that's always going to be the trick, is to make it look budget and not that I'm not good at the game. This is something we always talked about with Pinewood, right? So getting that subtle line is going to be tricky. But I feel like I've done a pretty good job here of just keeping the theming so very light. But I do think we're going to come back once the fantasy theming is here and have a little pass with this, just adding a couple of little extra bits really to cap it off. But there we go. The little courtroom. I can't think of courtroom. The little courtyard area is done, and I'm happy with that. The beginning of the water that runs down. We use the water pieces there. I thought that was just going to be much easier than try and use actual water in the game, because this will keep building this stream as we move down into the park. So those water pieces are going to be very useful for that. And then we have our first QSR and a couple of flat rides. It doesn't feel like I've got that much done, but there's a lot of work on into all of this. I don't know. I'm happy with it though. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, if you have enjoyed it, give us a like. It really helps out. If you're new here and you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Lots of Planet Coaster content and other creative games here on the channel. Love you all to bits. Until the next one, be good.